Hey, I'm Sarah Tagander, international speaker and trainer for a $40 million division in healthcare. With over a decade of experience working with healthcare providers, I believe that a healthcare practice should do more than just pay back student loans. Each week, I'll bring you the tips, tricks, and experts you need to build your practice both on and offline. Smart people take notes, so grab a pen or open up the Notes app on your phone as we dive into the Health of Your Business podcast. Did you have a moment in your life, one of those pivotal moments where you overcame a huge obstacle and now you live to tell the tale on the other side? So many people then take that story, that journey, and make it their life's purpose, their life's calling, whether they open a business or that's the profession that they're in today. And I find so many providers, especially the ones who really niche down to something really, really specific, are ones who also experience that kind of adversity. I know that plays a big role in the work that I do here with the Health of Your Business podcast and with my group coaching program, the Health of Your Group program. And, you're in the right place if you feel like that. What I really want this interview today to empower you is to understand that you can niche, and then niche again, especially as a provider. The Thyroid Fixer, Dr. Amie Hornaman. I have just seen how much she has niched. And if you go jump on her website, you can see how crystal clear it is who she helps and who she serves. And yep, you guessed it. She's got a personal story when it comes to thyroid. Now, a lot of people just feel like they get bounced around from provider to provider, that some of their complaints that they have are, normal. You're just getting older. No, you could have something and a provider doesn't put two and two together to say, hey, that's a much bigger issue. One of the things I really appreciated about Dr. Hornaman was her generosity, not just on the podcast with me, but also after, as I've been questioning a couple funny symptoms of one of my kids and saying, this podcast got me thinking, should I rule out thyroid? And she's got a cool link right there to order your own lab tests. What a neat system that she has. For anything else, go on Dr. Amie Hornaman's website just to see what that looks like, because that might be something as a provider you might want to add to your website as a really nice service. So I don't know how it all works on the back end, but I know for me, it was very helpful and empowering for me to be able to order my own labs. Because guess what? There's things that I'm like, is my pediatrician missing something with my kids? Have we not thought that before? And to have someone who is just so niche in what she does, I want you to hear about how she got there on this journey, how she's then serving people who have similar stories to the one that she went through. And gosh, she's turning people now into absolute warriors. And so check out Dr. Amie Hornaman. And I linked to a place where you can book a call with her if you feel like your thyroid's a little off. Or, you know what? She's a really cool expert. I don't know if you have a podcast too, go ahead and book her. But let's get right into this interview. Dr. Amie Hornaman, the Thyroid Fixer, right? We'll talk about that and why I'm emphasizing it. But thank you for coming. Thanks for talking to providers here, because I want to just get right to it with your personal story. It's so interesting how you got to this place as a provider yourself, as someone who was, I looked at those pictures and Dr. Amie, like, wowzers. I'm just going to tease it right there. As someone who competed with, bodybuilding and competed in that way at such a high performance level, how did you get to a place where you needed help yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. And it's such a pain to purpose story, right? So many of us have. It was 20 some years ago. I won't give the exact date. 20 some years ago, I was competing in figure competitions and I was doing fitness modeling as well. So I always say, I do not come from a family of teeny tiny people. We have type 2 diabetes. We have obesity in my family. So they're just, in general, I always had to work hard. I always had to work my butt off to get down to that size where you step on stage in a bikini or you step in front of the camera in a bikini, because the camera does add 10 pounds. So I would work really, really hard. And I had done this over and over again. I've been doing it for years. This one particular contest prep, I started gaining weight instead of losing. And I was like, okay, I wasn't into the functional medicine world yet, but I knew enough about biology to know that what I was doing, eating, going to the gym twice a day, what I had done before that had worked, wasn't working now, and it didn't make sense. I knew my body. I knew there was something up. There was something going on. So I went to 6 different doctors who all said, you're normal, you're fine, your labs look good, normal, air quotes, and just eat less and exercise more. I was like, what are you telling me to do? Look at what I'm doing right now. I can't eat any less and I can't exercise anymore. And of course, they weren't even taking into account the fact that if I did follow their instructions, I would crash my adrenals. So I got misdiagnosis after misdiagnosis. I cried in my car. I just wanted someone to tell me what was wrong. Finally, the 7th doctor did, and then put me on T4 medication. And in my world, in the functional medicine world, if anyone is in the functional medicine world or has suffered with hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, you know that T4 doesn't work in 99% of the cases. So I went back to my doctor. I gave it 5 months. Now, some of my patients come back after like 10 years, 20 years, and they've been suffering for that long. And they say, hey, this isn't working. So I waited about 5 months, didn't notice anything change, went back to my doctor and said, hey, I've been doing this research on this thyroid hormone called T3. Turns out it works really well and it works good with T4. So could we do it? She says, nope, I don't do that. Like many of my patients' doctors say to them, nope, don't do it. Don't do it. I said, well, I'm going to find someone who does. So I searched around. I found who is now my mentor, functional medicine, naturopathic doctor. He did all the testing that now I do on my patients. He treated me with T4 and T3. That made all the difference in the world. And I had my own journey with the medication piece, but at least I had a functional doc that was listening and doing the right thing. And from that point on, I was like, you know what? I'm in. If I suffer that much in little Erie, Pennsylvania, well, at the time I was in Pittsburgh, so it was actually a big city, right? I mean, we have Hillman Cancer Center down, the UPMC. I was in a big enough city that I should have gotten an answer before doctor number 7. And I said, well, if people are suffering, if I'm suffering, then other people are suffering. And they need answers the same way as I needed answers. So I just went down this path, got my doctorate, specialized in functional medicine. I specialize in the thyroid. So a.k.a. the Thyroid Fixer, like you said, Sarah. And that's what I do now. I fix people.
What's your advice on being your own patient advocate? I see that so often. And I just think, I know I would go to battle for my own health. I'd go to battle for my kids' health, but I also grew up in the medical world. So I am not intimidated. It doesn't sound like you are either by doctors. I don't hear their answers as the end all be all. I'm happy to go get a second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 12th, whatever it is, opinion until I find, the right mentor for me. That's how I feel about your doctor. It's not just who fits into your HMO plan, but what kind of advice do you have for people that are on that journey?
Yeah. So a couple of things. I mean, number one, I think people in general, or maybe we've been raised this way, conditioned this way in society, that we elevate doctors to the level of God. And I have a DR in front of my name, and I never would ever expect anyone to take my word as gold. If you disagree with me, challenge me. If I don't know something, I'm going to tell you I don't know it, and I'm going to help you find the answer, or I'm just going to say that's not my area of specialty. I think we elevate doctors to a God level that whatever they say goes. And sometimes that's on the doc themselves, in that they take offense if the patient asks a question or asks for a different lab just so they can see what the heck is going on in their body. So I think that's problem number one. It's just that God complex plus intimidation factor of the patient going on. And then number two, I think, especially with thyroid, you're just tired. I mean, you're just beat down already. You're frustrated. You're not getting answers and you just tend to give up. And that's really my message to my listeners, to my patient. Just, you have to have hope and you have to become your own patient advocate, but at the same time, hold on to that hope because there is an answer out there. Like you said, if it takes 12, if it takes 20, if it takes 50 doctors, there is an answer and somebody's going to give it to you.
It's so hard because especially with a thyroid and looking at your website, you had all the different things that you feel like you could feel. It could be weight gain, it could be brain fog, it could be memory, it could be that, you're like, do I go get a brain scan? Am I having early Alzheimer's? Do I need a weight loss coach? Like there's so many people that I get really frustrated to even not know where to start sometimes because the symptoms overlap. And it's not until something breaks down in a physical aspect of your body that then the right doctor to go to. But at that point, you're not going towards health. You're just fixing sickness.
Right.
There wasn't really a question there. I'm preaching to the choir. I get it.
No, they preach away. I'm down with preaching, honestly. No, you're right. And that's where the BandAids come in. So that's where people will go to their doctor and say, I'm really depressed and anxious. Well, here's an antidepressant. Yeah. Oh, look, you have high cholesterol. Here's a statin. You have high blood pressure. Here's a blood pressure medication. You have type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. Here's some metformin. And they're just band-aiding all the symptoms instead of looking at what's actually going on beneath the surface. So it's super easy to get confused. There's a ton of symptoms that are associated with thyroid that people are kind of surprised. Frozen shoulder. I mean, it could be a football injury. Yeah. Frozen shoulder is a very common symptom of hypothyroidism, but we just think, oh, I got to go to the chiropractor. I'm getting stiff today. And that might be, maybe it is an injury. Maybe it is overuse. Maybe if you have the other symptoms, it's a thyroid problem that's undiagnosed, like so many are.
I am in down a journey with airway expansion that started with me going to an orthopedic surgeon who said that I needed steroid injections in my neck. But when I kept looking and looking and looking, just like you're saying, the real reason is just that I was a thumb sucker when I was little. That's really that's where it starts. I have, genetic history of a small palate combined with the fact that I was a thumb sucker. And years later, I have grinding, I have poor sleep, but who would have thought? Oh yeah. No, my arm hurt and that was it. My arm hurt. So I went to an orthopedic surgeon who's a friend of my dad's. That made a lot of sense. Let's go to the best of the best, but wasn't even the true issue. Took me years, so much time, so much money. But let's just talk about you as a provider. Let's switch hats to the business side of things, because this is the health of your business podcast.
Yep.
How did you finally figure out, Dr. Amie, like, I'm going to be the thyroid fixer? I'm going to be that person. And, how did you, because I talked to a lot of providers when they need to niche and they're so scared to do so. What did it feel like for you?
Scary. Scary. So rewind, I don't know how many years ago, as providers, as entrepreneurs, you hear over and over again, niche down. And you fight it because you go, well, but I do thyroid and I do hormones and I do adrenals and I do the gut and I do, and yes, you do. But what is your one thing? What's that one thing that you are passionate about, that you focus on, that drives you daily, that most of your patients have? That's what your niche, whatever you want to call it, is. Yeah. And once I did that, that was like the first step to business exploding. And then you kind of step back and you go, oh, all those people that told me to do that all those years were right. And it kind of hits you like, I should have done this a little while ago. But once I did that, business took off. And I knew all along. I mean, come on, you know what your passion is, you know what your thing is. You're just too scared to take that next step because you think you're going to push out people that don't have that condition, whatever your specialty is. But honestly, I mean, you hear this over and over again. You're going to hear it from me too. You will increase your business as soon as you niche down.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing. Yes, it was absolutely scary, but a great thing.
What do you wish was that first, like, what was the one thing? Was it calling yourself and like creating a name? Was it in speaking to your audience clearer? Like, what do you think was the thing that put you over the edge in terms of niching?
Speaking to the audience, really focusing on the thyroid, because I think if you talk about too many things, you confuse people, and then they go, well, what do you do? Like, what is your specialty? I'll give you the example of many patients will come to me who have seen a functional medicine doctor. They may have even gone to the Cleveland Clinic, which is, elevated in our minds to be, oh my gosh, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, they're amazing. And Dr. Mark Hyman runs the functional medicine department of the Cleveland Clinic. Unless you're seeing him, you're seeing somebody else. And that person, that functional medicine practitioner, you don't get linked with a specialty. You just see a functional medicine practitioner. Well, I have had patients come to me that showed me their testing of the thyroid. And they had like 2 out of the 5 tests that have to be done. And I said, you might as well have gone to your PCP down the street because you did not get functional testing done. And it's because they don't specialize. They haven't niched down. They're still trying to treat everything from endocrine to gut to adrenals and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work for you as the provider, and also doesn't work for your patient, because now they're getting the short end of the stick because you don't specialize in that. And like I said, for me, I mean, I've had calls from moms like, hey, my son is autistic. I'll refer you to a pediatric functional medicine specialist. That's not my area. I could take your money. I would do you a disservice.
Yeah, right. It is. It's just as easy to say no to clients, which also helps free up your time. I really think the wrong clients, the wrong patients are the heavy ones in our schedule. They actually take way more time than just the allotted consultation, the allotted treatment. It's way more energy when it's not the right person. I think of this recently. My son, who this was right before he turned 1, he had something on his arm that needed to be looked at. My pediatrician convinced me she was sending me to a pediatric dermatologist. People's websites are terrible. You know this, Dr. Amie. Like, they're not that clear when you're just going to community medical facilities. What was I going to do? I mean, I didn't want to drive. I live in the Boston area. I didn't want to drive all the way in town. We have great people that have satellite offices in the suburbs. I got, and I'm like, so you're the pediatric dermatologist? And he's like, oh no, I see everyone.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was like a textbook case of nothing, something that's like one of these baby things that, like a skin deformity at birth that kind of works itself out. He's going to be totally fine. So that very expensive copay, and more so just the time that it took. I was like, we can't do a Zoom. And in this day and age, going to make me drag my kid, drag myself out of our homes. It's a whole day affair, basically. And I love specialists for that reason, because when you get the right person on the phone, it can save you so much time. And as a busy mom, a busy professional myself, I will pay out of pocket. I will pay to get the specialist.
Yes.
But I don't just pay for the specialist. I pay for the people they surround themselves with, which is, I mean, when I found you, Dr. Amie, like, you're in the right circles, you're in the right places, you have the right affiliations, not just in the company that you keep, the mentorship you seek out, but even in your own practice. I mean, you have the support of a nurse practitioner, and you have the support of someone that helps why am I not a therapist, but a therapist. Yeah, he is a therapist, and he, goes over that part of it. Just tell me a little bit about why you made that decision to fully support patients in that way.
Yeah. So one thing I saw with working with patients for years, 20 some years, is that, we try to work with their doctors, and many of them will come to me and they have lifelong relationships. They've been with the same PCP for decades and they don't want to leave. And I understand that. But my message always is, if your doctor won't test for tests that you ask for, it's time to get a new doctor. If your doctor is not listening to you and listening to your symptoms, it's time to get a new doctor. Well, what would end up happening is patients would come and it would be sometimes months before their doctor would be on board, or they would be on board for a little bit and do a couple changes that we requested, do a couple tests, because I like to go through someone's PCP. That way they're not spending money out of pocket for testing. And I figure, listen, if you have insurance, why shouldn't we run a CBC and CMP and thyroid panel through insurance? There's no reason why your insurance won't cover all of that. So I'm not going to have them spend, money out of pocket for functional testing when we can see it from some basic labs. So I brought in my nurse practitioner, who is now just part of my team. She's a friend. She's amazing. She's functional. She can order testing. She can do prescription. She can do anything that we need with patients. And now we skip the BS of waiting for that particular patient to talk to their doctor. Is their doctor on board? Is it going to take forever? When are they getting back to them? It was just becoming a hassle. So I'm like, you know what? We're just packaging this in. Like, you don't even have a choice. You're seeing my nurse practitioner because she's going to order the test. It's going to be covered by your insurance if you have insurance. Done. And then the mindset piece, what I was finding and working with these patients is, listen, I'm a great listener. I can listen all day long. I can empathize. I get it. I get going through traumatic times. I get going through hard times, but I can't deal with those limitations that people will have that literally hold them back in their health. And if you're a health practitioner, listen to this, you're nodding your head. You're going, yeah, I get it. These limiting beliefs that I'm never going to get better. And you can't fault the patient because maybe they've tried for years to get answers. Maybe they have been told that they're normal. Maybe they've been told it's all in their head. I hear that a lot too. So if you're told it's all in your head, you believe it's all in your head and you go, I'm just a failure. I'm never going to get better. Nobody has an answer for me. Or maybe they've gone through trauma that significantly impacts their health as well. And they kind of have to work through that trauma a little bit. So yes, my mindset coach will meet with them and make dramatic progress in a short amount of time. And when we work on that mindset and they actually believe that they are strong, they're powerful, they can do this, I think it takes them to another level. And the nice thing about my mindset coach is he's a PhD. He actually wrote his dissertation on, I'll just give you a little nugget, Navy SEALs. And he interviewed Navy SEALs and found that the common thread, and I'm not going to do this justice at all, but the common thread with Navy SEALs getting through BUDS, which is the toughest training in the entire world that you'll ever do, was a past crises. They had something in the past, be it childhood trauma, family, dysfunction. Some were pretty dramatic, seeing their dad shot, just really, and it made them more resilient. It made them more resilient to stress. So he has a way of taking it and working with people and saying, okay, that trauma in your past didn't weaken you. It actually made you more resilient if you really look at it. And it pulls that. And then they emerge from the session like, yes, I am resilient and I can do this. And it changes the biochemistry of the body.
That brought up for me. I always, when I feel like I'm in the toughest place ever, I just think about the fact that I had 3 children with no epidural, and that moment where you think your body is going to break in half and it never does. And then 20 minutes later, somehow you're in the most blissful state ever, when 20 minutes before, like, I'm seeing white light. I'm like, that's it. God, take me home. Life is over for me. This can't get any worse. And so then, it is funny the times when it comes up, I can be something as just like on my Peloton doing a climb ride, and it just brings me right back to that moment in that hospital room. And I'm like, oh, I survived that contraction. That was only 90 seconds. I only have 30 seconds left of this climb. Like, I think I can do this. This Peloton will not kill me. So it is funny when you rationalize things and you're not in danger, when you've maybe been in danger or perceived danger in the past. That's so huge. That's what just came through for me.
Yeah, no, that's it though. You pull from those times where you're like, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you recognize that you got through it and
Mm,
you're okay. And then
mm,
now you can do another challenge just
yeah.
like that one.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not just in health, it's also in business. And you were telling me about a recent story that would have broken many people, and finding out that someone stole your name, stole your podcast name, stole the name that you have. Tell me, this is like breaking news right here. So what's going on, and how did you rise from the ashes of this?
Yeah, so we're still rising, but it'll be okay.
Yeah.
I learned a valuable lesson. One that honestly, I mean, Sarah, I don't know if you've even heard this in business that much. You don't hear the message, trademark your name, you know,
Mm-mm.
because how many people are actually getting their name taken? Well, actually, when I talked to JJ Virgin, this happened to her like twice
Yeah.
in her past too, so she could totally relate. And you don't even think, oh my gosh, it happened to somebody big like that. But we don't hear it enough in the business world. Trademark your name, trademark your name, because all it takes is someone coming along. And if you have, so my story, I have a podcast. It was called the Thyroid Fix. Now it's called the Thyroid Fixer because I changed it. As we all know, big corporations like iTunes, Google, they're not taking the time to look into anything. They're just not. And in consulting with my attorney, he said the same thing. He's like, Apple, if they're threatening to take yours down because someone filed a complaint, they're not looking into the complaint. They're not looking to see if it was valid or not. So it turns out someone had filed for a trademark of the Thyroid Fix and then filed the complaint with Apple. And technically, since I've been using it in the way that I've been using it, it is mine. Could I fight it? Yes, that's probably what you're thinking in your mind. Well, why don't you just fight it, Aim, and get it back? It would cost more to fight it. And even JJ said that too. She's like, it's probably going to cost more to fight it. So change it and then blast the hell out of it. And then just become that.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose subscribers to your podcast. So that's what I'm doing, and kind of rebranding to a point. I mean, I just changed it slightly, but still, I mean, it was kind of a blow. I mean, when that happens and you're like, iTunes is going to take down my podcast. What am I going to do? How do I contact them? You can't contact them. And you just panic, and they give you 5 days, by the way. iTunes gives you 5 days to figure it out. So yeah, my message to all owners, business owners, practitioners, entrepreneurs, trademark your name. If you have a certain name that you're using for your podcast, don't think it cannot be taken, because if someone takes it, trademarks it, even if they file just the application, it turns out this isn't even trademarked yet. Just the application being filed is enough to wreak havoc in your business. And now I have to spend a couple grand, of course, with an attorney, either fighting it or just trademarking the new name.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that my whole team listens to my podcast. So, team, message to you guys. Let's go trademark the podcast name. Let's make that a thing.
Yep.
Because you don't think that you're a big deal until you're a big deal. And you don't think you're a big deal because as entrepreneurs, there's always a horizon that we keep chasing, and we never are going to feel like we've arrived. And so, and everyone's back end is a little bit messier. You think my office looks really nice. You have no idea that there's broken crayons at my feet. There is, a pile of things that need to be sorted and taken care of. You do not know that there's also a changing table in my office. It probably also has a dirty diaper on top of it. So, that like real life is real life. It's not just what we show up as. And so you're never going to feel like you're as put together, because we live this Instagram world. And
Right.
I am telling you, you are further ahead than you think. You are a bigger deal than you think, and you deserve to have those business protections in place. That's all it is. And what is it? It's just money. It just costs a little bit of money and a little bit of time. Go get an expert. It's so worth it. And that's why, whether it's trademarking, whether it's finding a thyroid expert, whether it's getting your burning health questions answered, go to someone who is an expert in what they do. Don't just go to the specialists, the generalists. And so if you or someone who needs the thyroid support, the thyroid fixer, Dr. Amie Hornaman is right here for you. And I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. And that is that Dr. Amie right now is still doing her own initial discovery consultations. I know where she's headed. She's not going to do these on her own pretty soon. She'll have a coach. She will have other people. So get her now while she's still super accessible, because I'm telling you, girl, you're blowing up. I just know.
Well, I have help, but anybody that is a listener of your podcast, when they're booking, make sure they put a note in there, and then you're talking to me.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's huge. That's so huge. And follow her, because you do really cool things. Like you interview people who are experts in, I know you just had a mold toxicity expert. You're, really finding out who are the experts that can help support your community. And I just think that's huge. You do really cool things. So I'm so happy that you were here and got to meet our listeners. And I hope everyone connects with one another. That's the way the world goes round. We're going to put everything in the show notes, all the links that you need. Dr. Amie, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you too. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks so much for listening. I want to hang out with you more. I truly believe your success is related to the people you spend the most time with. That's why I created the free community, the Girlfriends Group of Health Practitioners. It's a safe space for you to connect with other soul practitioners who don't just want to keep the doors of their practice open, but they want to impact the health of their community. Head over to www.sarah2gender.com and hit the tab at the top that says Group. Go in there and introduce yourself today. I'll see you soon.